Welcome to the Build Business Acumen podcast, where we deliver practical knowledge and powerful guidance.
Well, I am very privileged today to be joined by Stephen J. Manning again. He is a seasoned businessman, an entrepreneur, grew a business from around $1 million up to $1 billion a year. So he knows a lot about businesses and startups to scale ups. And we're here to talk about the essential tips that you need for rapid business expansion. And obviously, each one of those businesses is gonna be different. It all comes from an idea that you have in the beginning, and obviously, is it a fit for the market? So I know you've got some great stories, Steve, and I'm really looking forward to kind of digging into some of these success stories that you're going to share here.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Good afternoon.
So when it comes to the market conditions, where do you sort of start in trying to work out what the market needs?
Well, there was a time when people drove markets because of their own competencies. Go back a couple decades where you and I manufactured chairs, and we came up with a fantastic chair. And then we said, okay, we have the best chair, best price, all of that. Come and buy it. To me, I call that the Kevin Costner model, a movie that he made where they built this magnificent baseball field in the middle of a cornfield. And who's going to come? Well, if you build it, they will come. No, they don't. Marketing has changed. The opportunities lay in identifying specific needs that you can fulfill, either as a primary or secondary. By that I mean you're the first one, or me too, or you actually create a need. You know, a friend of mine created a product which meant the rock in the pet rock. He sold millions and millions and millions of rocks.
I've heard of that.
In a little box.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Right. Millions. There were people in top-line department stores yelling at each other. No, I saw that first. That's my rock. That's my rock. By the way, the rocks came by massive truckloads from a beach down in Mexico. And he made enormous amounts of money, but he created a hysterical need to own a pet rock. Now, the trick, of course, was not the rock. It was a little booklet. It was called The Care and Feeding of Your Pet Rock. He was a really good copywriter. And by the way, how did he come up with that brilliant idea? He and another man I knew from a big ad agency were drinking way too much one afternoon. And they're, hey, I can sell this, I can sell that. And then my guy said, I can sell rocks. The guy says, go ahead. And they made a bet. A shot of whiskey, I think. Now, you and I sit back, if you follow the Manning process, and decide what is it, where's their need? What do I create? Is there a need I can fill? There are, if I'm allowed, and I kind of say this or write this often, is in a world of creating startups or businesses, or the whole idea of creativity tied to marketing, there are two kinds of people, in my view. You pull up to a red light at an intersection. 3 lanes, people. There's two kinds of people. One, I wish I had gone a little faster. I might have made the light. Gosh, I hope this is only a 2-minute light, not one of those long, interminable lights. Of course, they don't process the part that there are bus benches on corners for a reason with advertising. Let's carry on. Category 2 are entrepreneurs. Pull up the red light and you stand there and say, okay, now there are 6 people proximate to me right here. And what are they doing? They're fiddling with their phones. They're scratching their noses because, of course, you can't see through the windows. And they're sitting there saying, gosh, I wish this wasn't a long light. The entrepreneur says, like, gosh, I hope this is a really long life. Now, what do these people have in common? Maybe I can come up with something I can sell to them. Now, that's sort of the way I see it. Because, I may be somewhat better marketer than most, not as good as many, but early in the morning, when I'm sitting there brushing my teeth and I have the incredible eureka moment, I know there's a million other people doing exactly the same thing. And among them, there are many that have the time, the inclination, money to go ahead and do it. I go back to my stuff. But, in terms of identifying a need, allow me a story. And if you read my new book, I actually relate this experience. I call it a bet you don't want to make. So, taking a chapter from some brilliant marketers I've known, here's the bet. We go to any big office building, 6th Avenue in New York, for example. Condition is this. They have to have one of those express elevators. They go from ground floor to 66. Then you transfer to go up to 80. And that's a 2-minute ride. And there are 50 people on the elevator. Here's the bet. In the morning, at peak traffic, which is typically either just 8 or just 9, we squeeze in the last people on the elevator. And all those people are just happy, unhappy, going to work. And that's when I turn around and I say, hi. Now that I got you here, I got to sell something. And of course, people grumble. And I say, now, have any of you heard of a restaurateur in New York? His name is Kenny Oretsky. He makes the greatest lobster club sandwich in the world. Of course, you have to be able to afford it. Okay. You get the faces, and I say, okay, I have a bet going. Would anybody here like a lobster club sandwich for lunch, $15? The bet is, if I don't sell 4 of those between ground floor and 66, I'm buying the tickets, the expensive hotels, all the meals. On the other hand, if I do sell those, you're buying all that, and I'm going to be entertained for a week by you. Now, there's a bet you don't want to make. That's just creating a need and coming up with a construct that people say, yeah, that's me. I'm in on that. So now that's startups, that's ideas. Now, the basic topic here is scaling up. There are a number of aspects to scaling up, including figuring out to begin with, whatever you're doing, how might that scale up? And you'll find out that there are some businesses that naturally don't, but there are ways to scale those up. And then you find out that there are resources you need, not now, but here, and here. That's one of the things I'd love to talk about is you need to be able to, scaling up, you need to be able to work through the natural plateaus of businesses. Go from entrepreneurial startup to managerial to regress, go to professional and so on to maturity. And you need to be able to manage through those if you ever have a shot in hell of scaling up. Then you have to figure out what your cost structure is, and it will be. There are some basic, ordinary, called cost accounting, if you will, that needs to go into the business. You need to understand where to categorize your costs, and that's how you fund the business. You need to be able to understand what capital expenses are versus variable expenses are. If you can successfully scale up, you have to tailor the capital expenses to allow you to scale up without going out of business. 90 some odd percent of new businesses in America go bankrupt in a year. Why? They run out of money, and they never quite figured out what it takes. But and of course, we laugh about businesses that just don't scale, and make no mistake, size doesn't necessarily equate to profitability. It does not. I don't know the exact number, but I venture to say that there are, let's just say, double digits in the Fortune 1000 companies that make less money than you make this year, Nathaniel. Last I looked, you're not going to lose $1 billion or $2 billion doing business. Therefore, by definition, you do better. But we talked about a fascination with small businesses that do very well. I built a big business, not alone. Lots of people contribute and take significant ownership to that. But and I understand what's like to run $1 billion business that drops 3% after tax. Dollar for dollar, the most successful business I have ever run, other than a couple of advisory consulting clients who decided to not pay me, and I agreed to simply take the benefit from my advice. Can't beat that. Can't beat that. But I created a little business that did, I think, $2.5 million a year and netted $1.25 million.
Amazing.
Imagine that, dollar for dollar.
It's amazing.
And by the way, the success of that business had everything to do with understanding what the resources were required to do that. Anybody else could have sold the same goods. People could have copied what I did, but they couldn't buy the media I bought.
Mm-hmm.
I made sure no one else had access to that. The media is this little that created that kind of benefit. Oh, by the way, that enterprise had 2.5 employees.
Yeah, I love that.
Now, yeah, it's not there are okay. So let's say you run a shoe repair shop. How do you scale that up? Well, minor stuff. Let's sell shoelaces and shoe polish and whatever else is associated with getting your shoes fixed. Okay, that may add a couple of pennies to the proposition. Okay, we can open 2 shoe shops, maybe 3. The coffee shop example, which I can get into if you like. Okay, now can you open 2 and 3 and 4 and 6 and 8 shoe repair shops? Yes, if you actually have the managerial skill to do that. 2, you have the money to do that. Because you can't just say, oh, look, there's a space, I'm going to open a shoe repair store. No. There are some shoe repair stores that depend entirely on foot traffic. Then you better be able to afford the right location for that. I'm not going to open a shoe repair shop over there, and there is no foot traffic. There's a whole lot. No. And then there are other people, other events. And I love to tell the story, if you allow me. When the sushi craze hit Los Angeles, California.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. If you didn't eat sushi once or twice a week, you didn't belong. You sure could not get a SAG card in Hollywood. So we had our favorite little sushi joint in Studio City, California. Okay. Run by a guy who was illiterate in every language. The sushi chef I know they spoke Japanese. Whatever the heck they said when I walked in, I never asked to translate. Too much, too loud, and I figured, oh, here comes a big American. Let's make him food. I don't know what they said. They got a parking lot. They had a tight parking lot, and they had an attendant. A young man, he was a recent immigrant from the Middle East. I'm reasonably certain he was Persian. Didn't speak a word of English. Now, what he did understand, he said, hello. He was so darn pleasant. And what he did understand is that I didn't want to wait 30 minutes for him to jockey cars so I can get out. So he understood that instead of getting a $2 tip, I give him $5. Please park my car up here. So $3, well worth spent not to invest a half hour standing there. He was the most grateful guy on earth. 4 or 5 months into, he introduced me to a younger version of him, his cousin. This is my cousin. He's going to take care of you. Hello, welcome. That's what in English. Welcome and thank you. And he said, he put my car right over there. I said, okay, passing down generations. It took about 6 months. And they were now cycling to the fourth or fifth cousin.
Oh, wow.
And they knew to park my car over there because I'm going to tip $5 instead of 2.
Mm-hmm.
The original dude, this is how he scaled that up. There are people like us who go to that sushi bar and that delicatessen. He went ahead and traded those relationships, and all of a sudden, the original guy and cousin 2, cousin 1, cousin 2, cousin 3, cousin 4, they're now working different parking lots.
Oh.
By way of introduction. Move forward just a little bit. One of the uncles ended up working for us. He was the dude downstairs in our building to make sure the cars were okay, greet everybody in our parking lot. And there was no way any lady that worked in our building was allowed to carry up a bag. He did. Hans did that.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody loved this guy and his family. As an aside, when he passed away, worked for years and years, when he passed away, 100% of the staff showed up to this man's funeral.
Mm.
Now, that said, the original guy, I think that he commands 100 some odd parking lots. He also has a very significant livery service, town cars and limousines. Oh, yes. And the coup de grace. He owns the sushi bar.
Oh, wow.
Where we started.
Amazing.
His 2 sons work it. And he shows up to say, hey, Steve, how you been? When I happen to show up. And, he just glad sends people. He was an illiterate parking lot guy just some years ago. And the way he scaled it is to the goodwill of the people that appreciated him. Now, how about that for creating I promise you, he has a significant business.
That's amazing.
And he is as deferential today when you tip his staff at the sushi bar or the parking lot guys as he was when I know he lived in a 1-bedroom place with 6 other people.
Wow.
Okay, he scaled that up. The lesson, of course, is allow your brain to process your potential.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, he had what he had. The shoe repair guy is going to need more resources to open more shops in the right place with the right traffic. How is he going to do that? Well, maybe he has a cousin that's coming in from someplace, and we can try to do that. But there are ways to, again, this takes us back to a lot of things like you need to have the available resources. That's money, the human resources, the whole process that us humans have to go through to be able to scale a business. And that's very important to understand how to scale a business through the various plateaus, because we are absolutely inclined to self-sabotage when we scale up a business. If that's something you want to get into, I'm glad to do it. Having I witnessed it firsthand,
right,
and then I witnessed it to 50 clients. By the way, and forgive me for the interruption, but it's astounding when you witness it the same way in a small business that's growing, and then you go to a multinational who's looking to scale up. And then I get to talk about diversification, and I get to talk about the application of funds. And I look at some of my clients, and to be sure, I learn much more from my clients than they could ever learn from me. And I end up saying, now, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Well, ultimately, because we can. Oh, there goes a really failing idea.
Yeah.
We can do it. Why? Because we can. I talked to an automaker. You know who they are because everybody knows who they are. They got in their hands that they're going to buy this chain of milliners. They grind wheat and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They have massive silos, do all that. And I said, what do you know about that business? Well, we know it's very profitable. Okay. And what business? I said, hold on a second. What business are you in? What's your reason for existence?
Mm-hmm. And
they looked at me, what do you mean? 100% of the world knows who we are. I said, great. But you are in basically 3 businesses. One, you're in a real estate business.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute, we make cars. Yeah, no. You're in a real estate business first. Second, you're a financial institution.
Hmm.
Remember, you sell the cars, you can finance it. And then you make cars.
Yep.
I promise you, in your building, there are 2 cars made by this company. Anyway, I said, so now explain that, well, we have to diversify. Diversify in what? A factory that chops up wheat? How's that a competency? It's not. So what's the natural idea? We're going to take a lot of resources. Mostly, we have the money. It's a couple billion. But you're going to take some of the smartest people that you have who want to do that. Because, everybody, new shiny. Yeah, we
course.
make that 4-wheel drive and those
Mhm.
SUVs. Shiny penny. I want in on that.
Yep.
And now you dilute the intelligence that you have internally. And then what happens? You find out that that's not the business for us.
Right.
Now, there's also a very, very large car company. I think they're the 4th largest in the world, who I did a little bit of work for, and it was fantastic in one respect. Now, you know me, my humble beginnings, where I come from, some of the stuff I talk about. Hey, listen, at 16, I was damn near homeless, and I said, I'm a bit confused. You have what? 10,000 engineers on staff? How many accountants you have? 10,000, 20,000? And I went through these numbers. They're spellbinding because they're huge.
Mm.
I don't know how many employees they have, 2 million. And I said, and you have all these external relationships. And the CEO looked at me and said, that's absolutely right. So you have more brilliant people here, they do, than I have here. Admittedly, I don't have a lot of hair, but still. And he said, yeah, but what we're asking you is not something we do well. It's not a core competency. I said, are you kidding? And he said, no, I would rather pay you to, quote, to beat us about the head than divert the focus of my best people. So I'm not doing this unless I can throw my best people at it so I can buy that and buy more, make a big business out of it. Which explains why so many companies went through the diversification craze just a few years ago, and then they went ahead and undiversified. I don't think that word exists. Jack Welch is a great example. Hey, you know what? I can't fix this. I'm going to start that. And that doesn't work. I spent $4 billion in, turn out. Well, your competency is this. That business, Saturn Motors, didn't finance the cars. Okay. Well, the other one does. Protect the mother business is the thing. Now, one of the things I said before, and I like to reiterate, is to scale a business up. One must understand it so much depends on availability of resources, money, and then human.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the human resource, of course, is the heartbeat of the business, ultimately. I don't care if you're splitting atoms or creating another AI model. It's the human component that's the pivotal component. Mm-hmm. When you are a stakeholder, top person, top woman or man, you're a leader in this business that you're looking to scale up. It is a good thing to understand that you will go through essentially 4 plateaus in your business. First, and you need to be able to understand it's coming, and for lack of a more pedantic term, make the most of it. First is the entrepreneurial stage. Ned and I are going to make this. And it's a great idea. We have borrowed money from our aunts and uncles and future children, and we get started. And we are, and because we are good brains and reasonably good business people, we count every paperclip. We count every nickel is accounted for. Why? Because it's our nickel. Okay, and we do this in managing. Oh, good, look at that. All of a sudden, Matt says, Steve, I don't think I can work 24 hours a day anymore. I said, well, I can't. We need to hire some people. Then you enter what's called the managerial stage, and you hire. Well, first we hire the all-inclusive, comprehensive office manager, who will in fact buy the paper clips and account for them, and kind of help out a little bit with hiring. And then, of course, the big kahuna about the whole insurance thing. Well, we'll let the office manager will do that, and then we grow because you and I can go back to making bigger and better. And then one day we have sitting for lunch and saying, I'm really not comfortable because now we have somebody else counting our money. Those are my nickels. That you go back to your managers because you now have 2 or 3 by now, and now you want more accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes up with, hey, it's our money. We start as, I want to approve everything you do. And you have a quality person that says, you want to approve stationary purchases? You want to approve our broadband bill? Let's have something better to do. Make more of these. Oh, no. I'm consumed by the fact that somebody's spending my money.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what happens? You regress.
Yeah.
You need to understand that's coming, and otherwise you're not going to scale up. And then, of course, you and I have lunch and say, we're driving the business into the ground because we're spending our money on that stuff. Important. And that's when you progress for short stage, again, back in managerial, and ultimately move up to the professional plateau. Then you hire seasoned people who know how to do various things within your business. Manufacturing, supply chain, human resources, all that. Now you have people who are not like you. You and I are still entrepreneurs. We still sweep the floor. Now we need to give up control to those people.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you need to understand that as you go through that process, you, the major stakeholder, has to get an education to understand what is important, what is not. And then you may give up the work. In fact, you have to give up the work, but you don't give up control. That means you need to understand what actually happens in the core of the business. You have to understand who has accountability for what, and the reporting relationships and how that's done has to work for you. Otherwise, you will implode. You'll find yourself a ship without a rudder or a Titanic of your own about to sink because nobody's paying attention to the damn icebergs, which are there. Remember, business, the business of business is filled with wolves.
Yeah.
When you go into that forest, it's filled with wolves.
Mm-hmm.
It is so easy to destroy a business while trying to make it bigger. Not so easy to make it bigger and successful. Big does not equate success. How many companies have gone bust who had market values of $1 billion, 2 and 3 and 10? They just got bust because the underlying structure was wrong. It seemed like a sexy idea, but it's sexy, but I'm going to try to invest and maybe get out quick. But it has to be supported by a need. You either fulfill it or you create it. Anyway, and then of course when you actually create a business, if you're thinking ahead, you need to understand the difference between capital expenses and variable expenses. You need to be able to put your money in a place that you can truly exploit the capital expense over time and volume.
Mm-hmm.
The simplest example, you have that space, that building. Now, you got to turn the lights on. It costs exactly the same whether you have 10 people or 400 people in that room.
Mm-hmm.
The lights are going on. That's a capital expense. Now, you got to look forward and say, how big can this get? And how do I have what it takes to do it? And it's an amazing thing how many companies blow that entirely. A simple example, a couple of years ago, the biggest insurance conglomerate around, we ran into a problem, meaning we did a lot of media trades. I used their media, they used mine. All of a sudden, their stuff stopped, just cascaded down.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't work. No. If you have a trend line that all of a sudden manifests over 2 months, which is different than the last 52 months,
Mm-hmm.
what changed? What happened? swear on everything sacred. They said nothing happened. Same thing every day. I said, it can't be, because I, on the other hand, losing, $10,000 a day
Mhm.
using your media, and I'm so committed. No, 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 no. Eventually, these good people came about and said, I was just trying to not pay the bill. I tried to explain to them that the bill was a tiny fraction of my expenses, my company expenses. And no, I don't have a problem paying them their $80,000 bill, as long as you tell me what happened so I can recover it going forward. Nothing happened. They said I was trying to steal $80,000. 9 months later, I run into senior exec from this company in an escalator in a building in New York. Steve, I said, you called me a liar and a thief. I'm not going to talk to you. No, you have to talk to me. Why do I have to talk to you? We figured out what's wrong. You see, anticipating, they launched the product. Very successful. Some point 10 years earlier, a systems person said, how many of these units do you think you're going to sell? They're policies. And the marketing people said, it's a pretty small deal. Don't know. Do you think you'll ever sell 1 million? Oh, absolutely not. It's ridiculous.
Mhm.
So he created a little hex field in a data file, which accommodated 999,999. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, as good fortune would have it, they did a lot of things the right way. The management was very smart, pushed it, and there was a day when the 9,999,999 changed to 1 million. Unfortunately, there was the data field was limited. So that one digit, 1 million, rolled over to the next field, which happened to be a zip code. So every zip code change started with a 0.
Oof.
And then a little bit, there was 2 and 3 and 4 and 4. So 20, 30% went poof in 30 days,
Oof.
because they never foresaw their potential success.
Wow.
Now, that's a great story in that, how often will that happen? And when they explained this to me, I said, okay, I'm still not going to do business with you, which was not a good thing for them, because I was the number one piece of media they used, ours was.
Mhm.
And they said, we think that we cost you $896,000. I said, really? But that's probably what you lost the 3 months that you've been chasing it. So we are sending you a wire transfer for $896,000. I did not faint or fall. I didn't flinch an eye, because I was reminded, is my long ago departed father going like this: remember where you came from. Okay. And yes, they sent us this money, and no, I never did business with them again.
Wow. It's amazing.
It's a story, because it's amazing.
It's amazing that people can just make that sort of mistake, right? But these mistakes can happen, can't they, all the way? And also being disrupted by not seeing something happening can also occur, right? And not reacting fast enough to market conditions. All sorts of things can happen. But at the beginning of deciding on your idea, right? Like, it's do you think that actually being a me too is a really great thing to do, or do you think that that is potentially a quick way to something that just makes money quickly and then disappears? What's your view on that?
I think that Me Too is a great idea. Uh, I always say I kind of prefer Avis to Hertz. I'm reasonably certain that Avis sits back and say, well, Hertz tried that, didn't work, let's not do it. The Me Too, the smart Me Too marketer, understands, at least tries to understand, why the thing that he's competing with or she's competing with is successful. And now, a Me Too product is wonderful. As long as you establish some advantage for that in the marketplace. If I'm going to rent the same automobiles to people that Hertz does,
Yeah.
Uh, there's no point in doing that the same price, same terms, uh, on locations they already have. I cannot get any small to large scale airport in the country where I can put my place in.
Mhm.
It's done. It's much like airlines. If you can't get the gate, you can't service the city.
Right.
But again, the thing that you look for in Me Too product is, a couple of years ago, sorry about this, I created the direct response industry in a bunch of countries in Central Eastern Europe. And one of the things we did was we did some interesting advertising, comparative advertising. I had a whole line of vanity perfumes. Let me be clear. We knocked off Cartier and Laurent and Escada and Klein and Chanel. And you can't compete with Chanel. The dollars they have. But we created our own. And we said that Chanel is an amazing brand. Fantastic. In every respect. A lot of great words. But then so is ours. So you can pay $96 for quarter ounce of that, or you can pay $3 for quarter ounce of ours, and you have an absolute, unconditional, no questions asked, guarantee of satisfaction. Okay, now, we had towns in some countries that were little towns. And it was a wonderful thing to have the ability to go to a small town that has 100 homes, and 50 of them were filling bottles for us in the middle of the night. You drive up to one of these little towns in a couple of these countries, you could smell the perfume in the air. It was wonderful. But so how did that succeed? The millions of those that we sold, we said Chanel is fantastic. Fantastic. One of the richest, Chanel 5, Chanel number 5, the greatest fragrances in history, the component. I wrote better stuff I wrote the most glorious copy about them. But we created our version of that, which is fantastic. But you can pay $96 for that, $2.95 for ours, and we guarantee 100%, no questions asked, guarantee of satisfaction anytime. In fact, don't even have to send back the unused bottle.
Mhm.
Drop us a note.
Mhm.
We'll give you money back. Which, by the way, mistakenly, I introduced that whole idea back in those countries. And what happened was we sold millions of bottles.
Right.
By the way, the product was good.
Mhm.
It wasn't garbage.
Yeah.
And why did that Me Too product work? Because pure comparative advertising. You can buy Chanel. It's fantastic. You can buy ours too, but it's $3 versus 96. My advantage in the marketplace was that 99% of people cannot afford $100 for a quarter of an ounce.
Mhm.
They just can't afford it.
Mhm.
Can't afford it. By the way, I know what the stuff inside costs. I know what the bottles cost. I know what the label costs.
Right.
The little filler cap.
Yeah.
The least expensive thing in the whole thing is the stuff inside. I
Mhm.
know. I had a crazy chemist here in Van Nuys, California, make it.
Bottles are very expensive. I've purchased bottles before. They're ridiculously expensive. It's crazy. It's crazy.
You know what the most expensive thing was in my little bottle perfume? The cap has a little filler on the inside,
Uh-huh.
little softy thing.
Uh-huh.
That was more money than a damn
Oh,
bottle,
wow.
because that had to be quality, or the
Of
thing would
course.
just
Of course. That
evaporate.
makes sense. That makes sense.
And the bottles came from Milano,
Yeah, yeah.
and the labels were printed in Sweden, and the caps were made by somewhere, and the perfume, well, the crazy chemist made it here, and it was frozen and macerated and shipped to Canada, because you can't just put perfume on an airplane. It has to go through a whole process. And then when it got across the world, there were a lot of families that lived on filling
Oh, yeah.
bottles. But the basic point is, me too. Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. We created a need based on, you don't want that, can't afford it, you can afford mine.
Right.
I created a Me Too product that was so affordable.
Right.
Oh, by the way, I remember fondly we're in two countries in Central Europe. We were sued by Chanel
Oh, really?
because we made them look bad. I said, okay. And they sued on the basis of 1927 law. And I said, we're going to fight this. And my lawyers, including a young woman who happened to be a member of parliament in this one particular country, said, no, we're not. We didn't do anything wrong. She said, would you please pay the $800 fine? And they're going to sue us again in 2 years. So she dragged me kicking and screaming to pay the $800 fine. And then 2 years later, I decided I'm not going to sell any more of the perfume because I sold so much. It was ridiculous.
Crazy.
So, but it's just a little anecdote on me too. But no, I'm not going to make another car that looks just like a Chevrolet or a Toyota. No. I'm not. But it's interesting how there are two car companies in the United States that are actually gaining some foothold against Tesla, which is like, really? Going up against Tesla is challenging a herd of angry yaks in the Himalaya, but there's something about them. They found a look, a feel. Of course, the best of the three just filed bankruptcy again, just can't compete. And
Right.
if Elon wakes up and says, let's just drop the price 28% today and move some cars. Okay.
Right.
And he doesn't seem to care that he really upset the people that bought yesterday. I mean, amazing. I have a friend who drives a Tesla. He keeps saying, well, you got to get it. I don't want a Tesla. I don't want one. But you see, Steve, you can get one for exactly half of what I paid for it last fall.
Crazy.
Well, how's that feel driving that thing?
Crazy.
But, the point is the whole the question is Me Too.
Yeah.
And last but not least is, the story you and I share is the coffee shop story. It's and that's yet another Me Too example. One of our fine business schools, it's irrelevant whether Stanford or Wharton or Berkeley, they graduate their class, and 2 years later they have a reunion. Now, who comes to the reunions? People are successful and people are trolling for business. And you remember the old story where everybody gets up and talks about the fantastic jobs they got.
Yeah.
They're making millions on Wall Street. They're doing this and that, the other. And some guy stands up in the back who nobody remembers and said, well, we're into plumbing and heating, and we had 2 bankruptcies and a fire. We're doing great. That's one way. Now, the other 2 guys, one guy stands up and says, I was so burned out from all the work. I went home, and I live in a small city in Nebraska. And I want to just chill out for 6 months. And I walk down the street with my dad. And, there's a coffee shop. There's a hardware store, one theater. There's one bar. There's a clothing store. That's it. It's Main Street. So I said to my dad, how does this make sense? I mean, Philadelphia, New York, everywhere else in the world, there's a coffee shop everywhere. So my dad and I opened a coffee shop right across the street from the other one. We have lines 24 hours a day to our coffee shop. We serve good coffee and good sandwiches. Very successful. The other kid gets up and says, well, I kind of have the same experience. I also went home to some city in near Des Moines or whatever, Iowa. And I went back and I haven't been home for like a year or two. I said to my father, my God, what happened? There's a coffee shop every 2 blocks. Same small city. What happened? And there's people in all of them. So we opened a coffee shop. We have lines around the building all the time. Why not? There's room for that. Me too. If there are 20, maybe 21, same thing as you go into big residential areas and in spread communities, some California communities, Nevada, blah, blah, and you drive the main streets this way, and every intersection has 3 gas stations and a supermarket.
Yeah.
Now, why do I need another 300,000 square foot supermarket? Well, 2 blocks down, Shell pulled out. Albertsons put up 300,000 square foot supermarket. If there's enough people for 1, there's enough people for 2.
Interesting.
So there's a Ross over here and an Albertsons over here. 500,000 square feet of grocery store. Me too.
Hmm. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I think that there is a lot of space, but it's got to be down to the angle, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about finding an angle, aren't we? So it can be better packaging, it can be a better product, it can be a cheaper product, it can be a better purpose that sits behind the business, right? Better looking, higher quality, more available. Oh, did I miss anything?
More affordable.
Yeah, more affordable. Yeah, I said that. So it's
I'm
no,
sorry.
it's okay.
Uh,
It's okay. So yeah, so it's interesting, isn't it? Like this whole Me Too thing. I quite like it because it actually is so much easier than trying to find a product market fit. Because product market fit is the hardest thing to actually find. That's the toughest thing because it's price, product, place, promotion, all of that sort of stuff, right? It's very, very difficult, isn't it?
hey, you know much about this. You've been there.
Yeah.
You've been there in your youth,
Yeah.
along with your
Yeah.
father. So you've seen it, you've experienced it, and it's of course there's no substitute for wisdom on the firing line.
Totally.
when it's on your skin, you learn
Yeah, me
quick.
and my dad, we used to go and look at all sorts of different companies when he was buying a few companies here and there. And we used to go and have a look. And some of them we bought, some of them we didn't buy, some of them we waited for and we bought. And, and it was kind of interesting. Some I kind of passed on and I regret passing on. There was one I should have really probably done, one or two, which would have been absolutely beautiful little businesses. But we all make mistakes, right? And I think that would have taken me on a different path. So I think a lot of it is to do with how you see your future, right? And that's why I'm really enjoying working with you. And I'm going to tell people about your book in a moment. But in the meantime, Stephen and I, we get up to lots of content creation for businesses, because many businesses, they actually, from startups, nascent and small to mature giants, struggle with creating the right content, as do podcasters, individual content creators, and even industry-specific experts. Businesses and individuals fail to differentiate between the utilitarian need for all manner of AI and the window dressing they feel they must have. AI is not the be-all and end-all solution. In the world of solutions, Manning and myself, Schooler, are internationally recognized leaders. And if you want to go and grab Stephen's book, you can do that. Do take the time to go and check that out. I will pop some links here. Stephen is very grateful for the early reviews of his book, The Business of Life, Taking a Wrecking Ball to Conventions and Norms in Search for Independent Thought. And you can go and get that on Amazon. That's around now. It will be available fairly soon on Audible as well, if that's how you like to consume your books. And thank you in advance for checking that out, and obviously for listening to this. And do help Stephen make his book a bestseller. Tell your family and friends and colleagues about The Business of Life. But if it is a white paper, a deep industry dive report, or an explainer video that you need, or a podcast, we create custom generated hardcore information and guidance for business clients, publishers, and broadcasters. And that includes content production of podcasts, white papers, deep dive industry reports, explainer videos, all sorts of stuff. So do contact us. I will drop a link to everything that you need. And if you have an audience, we will provide you with all you need to tell your story to captivate and entice your audience to engage fully with you and chart a clear, direct path to revenue. So thank you very much, Stephen. Always appreciate talking to you. And do reach out to us if you want to speak to us about anything.
Thanks so much for listening. Please subscribe, and wherever you prefer, share with your friends. And if you enjoyed the show, drop us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen.